Hey, my true crime aficionados. Welcome back to Watson's World, where we peel back the layers of the most bewildering and chilling true crime stories. I'm your host, Kevin, and in this video, we'll delve into a tale that's as perplexing as it is tragic. The case of Antonio and Dawn Armstrong. Alright folks, let's set the stage for this head-scratcher of a case. Picture this, 2016, Bel Air, Texas. Antonio and Dawn Armstrong, both 42, live in what seems like a chapter out of the Great American Dream Handbook. But as we're about to see, even dreams can have a dark side. No, Antonio wasn't just any Joe on the street. He was a Houston native, and not the kind to just blend into the crowd. This guy went from playing high school football to strutting his stuff at Texas A&M on a full ride. That's right, a full scholarship. Talk about kicking life's touchdown. But wait, there's more. Antonio leaps from college football to the big leagues, the NFL, folks. He's tackling giants as a linebacker for the Miami Dolphins in the 90s. Sure, his NFL dreams got sacked by ankle injuries, but did he throw in the towel? No. He hightails it to the Canadian Football League, playing for 6 more years. Talk about a comeback kid. And then there's Dawn, his beloved wife, who he met at church. Together, they're running first-class training, a chain of gyms in Texas. Antonio's not just pumping iron, he's a motivational speaker, a health guru. I mean, these two are like the dynamic duo of fitness and inspiration.
Hello everyone, Antonio Armstrong here and welcome to Strong Talk. Let's deal with self-pity today. You see, self-pity is one of the major downfalls, characteristic traits of those that fail in life. The reason why it is because we spend so much time waddling in our past.
But here's where it gets murky. One summer night in 2016, their storybook life turns into a true crime tale. Shots fired, both found in their bed, and no sign of a break-in. It's like the killer vanished into thin air or was hiding in plain sight. Enter Antonio Jr., otherwise called AJ, their 16-year-old son, star athlete like his dad. He's upstairs when the tragedy strikes. Calls 911. A terrified kid or a mastermind playing his part. The plot thickens when the cops find the family's own gun in the kitchen. No prints. And then there's this weird note. I have been watching for a long time. Come get me. I mean, what's that? A clue or a wild goose chase? But hold on to your horses. Antonio Sr. had secrets. Debts piling up, shady characters in the mix. Could this be a hit disguised as a family tragedy? Or is AJ the linchpin in this mystery? So, here we are, diving headfirst into the Armstrong enigma. Was it the son, a hitman, or is there another twist waiting in the wings? No, Dawn and Antonio weren't just a power couple. They were parents to 3 kids. The eldest, Josh, was Dawn's son from a previous relationship. By 2016, he he was in college and had a solid bond with his stepdad, Antonio. They were tight, like a knot that wouldn't come undone. And then there were the younger ones, 16-year-old AJ, a high school football star who carried the family torch on the field, and 12-year-old Kira, the youngest of the trio. AJ and Kira, they were living at home, right in the heart of the family drama. So, imagine this. July 28, 2016. The Armstrongs call it a night around 10 p.m. Kira, the youngest, she's the one who sets the home security system, locking them in a safe cocoon. Everyone heads off to their corners. Dawn and Antonio on the second floor, Kira nearby, and AJ, the big guy, up in the loft on the third floor. Now, Josh had recently flown the nest, moved to his own place, just a short hop away. That night, the house is as quiet as a library. But AJ, he's up texting with his girlfriend, Kate. They wrap up their chat past 1 a.m. Little did they know, the next hour would turn their world upside down. Okay, so 1:40 a.m. rolls around, and AJ's on the line with 911. He tells the dispatcher, all panicked, that he's heard gunshots. Then he heads down to the second floor and sees something odd. His parents' bedroom door ajar. They never left it open, not even a crack, he says. But he doesn't go in.
And your name?
AJ.
Any medical attention needed?
I heard gunshots, so I don't really know.
In your parents' bedroom?
Yes. And your doors are that makes me crack. How do you feel? That's not my fault.
The dispatcher's giving updates, checking in with the cops, heading over. A lot of it you can't really make out, but you can hear AJ trying to figure out how someone could have sneaked in their locked up house. It's all pretty muffled, but it sounds like he's talking about a handgun. AJ's sort of mumbling to himself.
It sounds like a handgun, rifle, or shotgun.
I'm not out there. I know my dad has party.
He tells the dispatcher about this ringing in his ears.
Okay, can you hear anything else that's going on?
I do.
Pretty odd, right? Then about 7 minutes in, he says something else that's kind of vague. Towards the end of the call, AJ punches in the code on the ADT keypad to turn off the house alarm. The whole call lasts like 16 minutes. Then you hear AJ opening the door. He and Kira, his sister, stepped out to meet the cops. The officers get there and do a sweep of the house to make sure no one else is inside. It's just Dawn and Antonio. They find Antonio Sr. still in bed, barely hanging on, with a bullet in his head. They rush him out fast for emergency care. Dawn, though she's already gone, 2 gunshot wounds right behind her ear. They were both asleep when they got shot. Here's another creepy part. Each of them had a pillow over their heads. In the kitchen, the cops see drawers left open all messy, but nothing's missing or messed up inside. Then there's this note on the counter all scrawled up saying, "I've been watching you for some time. Come get me." Whoever wrote it went over the capital letters a bunch of times, maybe trying to hide their handwriting. And get this, there's a gun on the counter too. Turns out it's Antonio Sr.'s own .22 caliber pistol, the one used in the shootings. He used to keep it in his bedside drawer, just like AJ mentioned on the 911 call. The cops figured the gun must have been taken from right next to Antonio while he was sleeping. The evidence shows Dawn was shot first, twice, real close together. Then the shooter went for Antonio. Maybe they thought the first shots woke him up, so they had to shoot him too. So when the cops first showed up at the Armstrongs' place, they had a serious puzzle on their hands. The house was like Fort Knox. Sensors on every door and motion detectors inside. But here's the kicker. None of the sensors were tripped. Every window was locked tight. Screens still on. It's like the killer was a ghost. No way out through the windows. No forced entry. It's as if they vanished into thin air. Two family members, Dawn and Antonio, are shot with a gun that was already in the house. And guess what? The gun is still there when the cops arrive. It hadn't been taken by whoever did this. Only two people walked out of that house when the cops showed up. 12-year-old Kira, who was woken by her brother's conversation with the emergency dispatcher. And then there's AJ, the 16-year-old son. The cops bagged AJ's hand for gunshot residue and put him in the back of the cruiser, separate from his sister. It's the wee hour of the morning, and the poor kid looks completely numb. He doesn't even cry, not a single tear, even though his mom's gone and his dad's in the hospital fighting for his life. The Houston Police Department is pretty convinced AJ is their guy. So they start grilling AJ.
A little bit of information for you. What's your first name?
Antonio.
Well, I mean, ultimately we're here. We got to, we need to sit down and talk to you, figure what happened today, what's been going on. How was your relationship with your parents in general?
It was a pretty good relationship.
Okay, you get along with your mom, get along with dad, no problems, no
me
issues?
Me and dad were like really close. And then me and my mom, like me, my brother and my sister like had our like little issues with my mom, but it was never anything like serious. Like it was just like family stuff. But we were all like really close. So.
Any recent problems, any issues between you and him or anything like that?
No. Like my dad's a pretty like chill guy. Okay. Likes to just talk things out. So any problem that we did have, we just talked about it.
Okay.
Then the cops bring up Josh, AJ's older brother. He showed up at the crime scene pretty fast, considering AJ had called him to tell him about their parents. Josh lived just down the street. AJ said, "Yeah, my older brother moved out. He's over at the Art Institute now. Got his own place just around the corner."
Now, you have an older brother that doesn't live there?
No, he's not. He just moved. He was going to Berlin, and he just moved back like 3 weeks ago. He's going to the Art Institute now, and he lives in those apartments. Like our house is here, and when you come out and make that left on Maple Ridge, he lives in those apartment complexes right there.
Okay, so right around the corner.
Yeah, right around the corner.
Okay, right around the corner. Now, how is his relationship with everybody in the family?
He's really like me. Him and my dad are like a really close group. Like we sit down and talk a lot. And then him and my mom are like identical people, like their personalities are the same, so they're close. And then me and him are just like have a really close brother relationship. And then my little sister like loves him.
While AJ is being questioned, the crime scene team is doing their thing. No fingerprints that are useful, nothing on the gun or the note and pen they found in the kitchen. But they find shell casings, not just in the master bedroom, but also in AJ's room. They ask AJ about the gun, his dad's gun. This whole situation is like a giant jigsaw puzzle with half of the pieces missing. The cops are trying to piece together a picture, but it's all hazy. AJ, the half-brother, Josh, the mysterious note, the gun, it's a real whodunit. AJ's talking to the cops, right? He's like, the only time I ever went to the shooting range was when I was like 8. My dad's stuff, his drawers, his closet, and under the bed, totally off limits. I never snooped around, except when he took the gun out. No clue where he kept it, but it was one of those places.
Do you know what kind of gun it is? I just know it's like a pistol. I think it's a 22, but I'm not like 100% positive. Like only time I've ever like used it was when we went to the gun range when I was like 8 years old or something like that. But like that's about it. And I know he has his case in one of his drawers. And like my dad, his drawers, the closet, and under the bed is like off limits. So I've never gone in there or like seen it or anything like that, except for when he brings it out. So like I don't know where he was keeping the gun at the time, but I know he keeps it on one of those 2 places.
No, here's where things get more tangled. The investigators are poking around the master bedroom, and what do you know? They spot a bullet hole in the ceiling. Guess where it lines up with? Yup, AJ's room on the 3rd floor, and they find the entry hole there, hidden under just a pile of socks. So, the HPD presses AJ about this, and he spills the beans. He admits he fired the gun a while back, showing it off to a buddy. And sure enough, the cops find bullet holes in a pillow and blanket stashed in AJ's closet. AJ's like, well, me and my friend were just messing around. He asked if I'd ever fired it, and I wanted to show him how. Found the gun under my dad's bed. Thought a pillow and blanket would muffle it, but guess not.
It was like 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. Like me and one of my friends was just like playing around, and they were about to leave, and he was like, hey, well not really he was like me. I was like, hey, like have you ever tried that before? And they were like, nah, I've never done it. And I was like, do you want me to show you how to? And like I like went and checked in 3 places, and the gun was on my dad's bed, and I like laid the pillow. I laid my pillow, and then like a blanket over it, a blanket under it, thinking like that would stop it, but I guess it did not stop it. Yeah.
But here's the thing. The cops aren't buying AJ's story. They're seeing fresh sheetrock bits on the master bedroom floor. That means the shot couldn't have been weeks ago. If it was, someone would have noticed, right?
You're explaining away around that you shot through the floor 2 or 3 weeks ago when we've got fresh sheetrock on the ground and we've got a round still laying on the ground. I mean, your parents use that room constantly. They're going to notice. If your dad's going to notice an art on the carpet, he's going to notice.
That's why I'm saying it doesn't make sense, because it wasn't in this past. I'm pretty sure it wasn't in the past week. If it wasn't this week, then it was last week.
But wait, there's more. They also find this burnt spot on the carpet of the 2nd floor landing. Not big, but definitely recent. Smells like gasoline, and there's this empty bottle of rubbing alcohol in AJ's room. The investigators puzzled, asking what's with the burnt carpet and the empty bottle.
Was the carpet burnt?
That was Tuesday. Okay.
Did you spill anything on the floor before?
No, I didn't spill anything on the floor. That's the thing that was like confusing to me. I didn't spill anything on the floor.
What's the bottle of rubbing alcohol that's empty in your bedroom? I'm just asking because the other investigator was out there says that the floor out there smells like Excel, which is like some type of
like gas, something like that. Yeah, right. That's what me and my dad, when like it happened, we both said that it like smelled like gas somewhere, and we didn't know where it was coming from.
It's like the pieces of the puzzle are there, but they just don't fit neatly together. The bullet holes, the burnt carpet, AJ's story, some things not adding up. The investigators are scratching their heads, thinking maybe AJ had been trying to set the second floor landing on fire a few days before the murders. Like right at the top of the stairs, which would have trapped anyone upstairs. And they're eyeing that bullet hole, the pillow and blanket in AJ's room, as if he was doing a dry run, testing how loud the gun was. Maybe wondering if it would wake up his sister, Kara. Then the news hits. Antonio Sr. doesn't make it, passes away in the hospital. So now, AJ is looking at 2 counts of capital murder. After months of investigation, AJ's bail bond is set for $200,000. But the motive, as clear as mud. On paper, with the alarm system and all, it looks like AJ is the shooter. But is it that straightforward? Here's the thing. AJ doesn't have any gunpowder residue on him. Not a trace on his hand, arms, or clothes. No blood splatter. No signs of his parents' blood on him. Not even in his hair. And there's no bloody clothing found in the house. If AJ was the shooter, did he magically clean up everything without leaving a hint of cleaning products anywhere? Then there's DNA on the notepad and gun, all matching the Armstrong family. But they can't pin it to just one person. Same story with DNA from other parts of the house. AJ had fibbed about messing with his dad's gun, and he tried to pin the mess on the stairs on his sister. But he's adamant someone broke in that night. He says he even saw a man in a mask bolting from the scene. This is what he said. I peeked out from the stairs, and there he was, running away. I bolted back to my closet and called 911. So the investigator asked, so you actually saw someone? AJ said, yeah. Definitely a guy, not a girl. No long hair or anything. He was wearing a mask, only eyes and mouth showing. Looked like a black guy. Pretty sure about 6 feet tall.
Probably 1 or 2, and I was still up. And I turned off my TV. I was getting ready to go to bed, and I went to the restroom. And when I came out, I heard the door open. And I haven't been feeling well like this whole day. That's why I've just been at home. And I thought it was my parents, so I walked downstairs. So I was gonna ask if I can get some medicine. And as I was walking downstairs, that's when I heard the 2 gunshots go off, and I ran back upstairs. And then when I ran back upstairs, I heard somebody run out of my parents' room and hit the door. And then I don't know how they got out. I don't know which, because if they would have went out one of the doors, our alarm would have went off. So my only guess is they had to have gone through a window, because those don't go off with our alarm system. It's not connected. And I saw someone coming out, so I just took off back upstairs and went straight to my closet, and that's when I called.
I hear everything you're saying.
Right.
And ultimately, there are some issues. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you there was some issues, and we kind of got to go over and kind of get to the bottom of what's going on.
Exactly.
Ultimately, you're out there, they swabbed your hand.
Right.
So ultimately, if you fired a gun, even if you wash your hands, it's going to show. It's going to show.
Right.
So if there was something more, something different that happened, this is kind of the time to talk about it. The gun is still in the house.
Right.
Okay, so it's on the kitchen counter. So it's one of those things where if somebody's running out of the house, there's no no time to
put it on the kitchen counter.
Put it on the
Right.
counter, and there's even like a little paper where there's some scribbling on it. So there's not really a lot of time if you're running out of the house, jumping out of a window to go put the gun there and then write a note.
And how's AJ feeling? Well, he's staring down a life sentence without parole, at least for 40 years. His family's got his back, though, standing by him. His defense attorneys, they're gearing up for a real courtroom showdown. A family member steps up, all firm and certain. We have got AJ's back. We know him, what he can do, what he can't. And let me tell you, he's not the type to hurt his parents. It had to be someone else in the house that night. AJ, the guy in the hot seat, he's feeling the weight of the world.
Being in this situation and just that being a constant reminder that someone would even think that it's something that I would do. Like, it's just, like, it hurts. It's frustrating.
Then out of left field, this lady, Maxine Adams, a friend of the Armstrongs, comes forward with a bombshell. She claims Antonio Sr. was mixed up in a prostitution ring, and her husband was in it too. They were tangled up with some pretty shady characters and even got death threats.
So there is a prostitution ring that my husband, Antonio, and another individual were all involved in during this time. I'm nervous that the more I push or the more I share, like, that it can end up the way Antonio was. The names that I'm giving you, I know for a fact, based on the call records and based on what I've seen. So I don't know, like, is there a prostitution police? Like, I don't know. Like, the son is obviously the suspect right now, but then that whole thing is just shady.
Do you think this is related to the homicide, or do you think it's just two independent things?
I think it's related.
AJ's lawyer, Rick DeToto, jumps on this, saying the state's been keeping a lid on these juicy details. He's pushing hard to get the charges against AJ dropped. Maxine, in her talk with the cops, lays it all out. I've got the whole 9 yards, names, numbers, the works. My son was getting threatening calls. Aren't you guys going to look into that? A family member torn up about it. It hurts, but we need the truth. We want AJ out of this mess.
We was family. We know him.
We know our
That's the thing. We know our grandson.
Yes.
We know what he's capable of doing.
Yes.
And what he's not capable of doing.
No.
And we know that he's not capable of murdering his mother and his father.
And get this, right after the murders, the Armstrongs, gym gets broken into, but nobody connects the dots between the break-in and the murders. The Toto out there telling the press that the state's playing their cards close to the chest, not letting the public in on the real story. Despite all the drama, the court's not budging. They're not tossing out AJ's case. Fast forward to 2019. AJ is 19 and heading to trial. The cops had their minds made up about him in like 11 minutes, way before they had the full picture. But here comes the curveball. The defense starts pointing fingers at Josh Armstrong, AJ and Kira's older half-brother, Dawn's son, and Antonio's stepson. After the murders, Josh gets hit with a schizophrenia diagnosis and starts getting treatment. He's been having paranoid episodes, even violent thoughts. The defense attorney lays it out. For 3 years, Josh's been in and out of mental health facilities. We're talking about suicidal, homicidal thoughts, even moments when he's totally out of it. There's a woman he hears in his head. This case It's like a mystery novel with too many plot twists. Alright, so the courtroom gets a visit from Hannah Pylon, Josh's ex-girlfriend. She was living with him when the Armstrong murders happened. Imagine this. She's snoozing away when the shots are fired. Wakes up and there's Josh, but she can't say for sure where he was earlier. She figured he was right there, sleeping beside her. Then the plot thickens. She's jolted awake by Josh getting a call from AJ about some trouble at his folks' place. Next thing she knows, Josh is grabbing a shotgun and hightailing it out the door. Anna spills more beans on the stand. After his parents' deaths, Josh's life took a nosedive. Voices in his head, paranoia, depression. The guy was spiraling hard. And then he checks himself into a hospital for some serious psych help. Now, Kira Armstrong, all grown up, and AJ's sister, takes the stand. She paints Josh as the family's odd one out. He felt like the parents favored the other two over him. She talks about how he changed, and not for the better, after coming back from college. But here's where it gets really interesting. She starts talking about the home security system, calling it finicky and unreliable. Those sensors, sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. Especially those door sensors. She even told the investigators this the night her parents died. The defense is hammering on this, trying to show that the whole idea that nobody could have gotten in or out is just bunk. And as for AJ, well, the motive for the murders is still as clear as mud.
Those records are not worth the paper they're written on. There was at least 77 different errors in those alarm records. Those alarm records are absolutely useless, and the whole state's theory that the house is closed and no one can get into it is nonsense.
The state's bringing up all this family drama. Text messages flying back and forth between AJ and his parents, his folks, Dawn and Antonio. They're lighting into him for lying, smoking, slacking in school, breaking rules. Dawn's text to her husband is just heart-wrenching. AJ is starting to lie. I'm so disappointed. Now AJ has been kicked out of school. He's messing up with his car, and he's not taking responsibility. He even tells his parents he's not bothering with apologies, knowing they won't believe him. His mom fires back, telling him how let down they are, how he's just throwing away all they've done for him. The picture the state's painting, it's not pretty, a family at breaking point. So the plot thickens in the Armstrong family saga. The text between AJ and his folks, they're a mixed bag. Sure, there's tension brewing, but it's not all doom and gloom. Dawn and Antonio, they're not just laying into AJ all the time. They've got moments of giving the kid props for his efforts. AJ's lawyers, they're making a play here, saying, look, our guy's just a typical teen. He's flirting with his girlfriend, getting into typical teen scrapes with his folks. Nothing sinister. They point out, hey, just 90 minutes before the tragedy, AJ's all lovey-dovey with his girl, talking about marriage. That's not the mood of a guy who is about to go off the rails. The courtroom's like a roller coaster of emotions. Over 39 hours. Witnesses take the stand. There's AJ's old football coach, a close pal of Antonio Sr. He's up there breaking down, talking about his bond with father and son. Then there's AJ in a moment of raw grief, burying his face in his hands as the court's shown the grim autopsy photos. But AJ, he doesn't take the stand, stays silent in his own defense. The jury, they're in a bind. They're mulling over Antonio Jr.'s fate for over 19 hours, spanning 3 days. They're sending notes back and forth to the judge, all saying they're stuck, can't reach a verdict. Judge's verdict, we have got a mistrial, folks. State's not backing down though. They're quick to say they're going to try AJ again. Interview time, and AJ's asked the $1 million question. Did you kill your folks? AJ's adamant, no way, never. He's hurting, frustrated, can't fathom people thinking he could do such a thing. Fast forward, pandemic hits, and the second trial's on hold. By 2022, AJ is not just older, he's a dad now. His son, Hendrix, carries the name Antonio. Kate, AJ's high school sweetheart, she's still in his corner. But this time, there's a twist in the trial. The security footage of a break-in at the Armstrong gym right after the murders, it's not part of the case now. And the defense, they're leaning into this new angle, pushing the idea that Josh, AJ's older half-brother, was the real shooter. They have got medical records showing Josh said he saw the murders go down. To the defense, it's as good as a confession. But the prosecution, they're calling it just a symptom of his mental illness, saying the murders triggered Josh's schizophrenia, arguing he wasn't in a state to commit such a crime. All right, let's dive into the nitty-gritty of these trials, where the timeline becomes the star of the show. We have got phone records and a security system that might as well have its own billing on the poster. Kira set the alarm at 9:52 p.m. That's a fact everyone agrees on. Then there's AJ, texting away with his girlfriend Kate until 1:02 a.m., after which he plugs his phone into the charger lightly in his room on the 3rd floor. But here's where it gets intriguing. The phone comes off the charger at 1:08 a.m., but stays locked. A minute later, a motion detector on the 2nd floor springs to life. The prosecution is painting a picture here. AJ's phone screen flickering on and off in the dark, possibly as he moves around the house. By 1:40 a.m., when AJ dials 911, Dawn and Antonio have been shot with Antonio's own gun. This is the only time in the entire day AJ's phone goes dark. The prosecution's theory? Well, AJ's busy cleaning up his tracks during this blackout. Then, at 1:57 a.m., he disarms the security system to let the cops in. To add to their argument, the security system locks the kitchen door opening 2 minutes later, just as the officers start their sweep. Enter Tim Rader, the security system guru from ADT, called in by the prosecution. But the defense, led by Rick DeToto, is ready to rumble. They have dug up what they claim are 77 errors in the security reports from the Armstrong house in July 2016 alone. From June to July, over 120 blips, mostly with doors supposedly opening and closing. The Toto is not holding back. He's like, this security report, it's as reliable as a screen door on a submarine. He brings up Kira's and others' statement about the garage door not always closing properly, yet the system could still be armed. Then the Toto hits the courtroom with this wild hypothetical.
It's about reasonable doubt. Now I'm going to give you a hypothetical. Let's assume that Tim Rader is a doctor. And someone goes to Dr. Rader, the ADT guy, and says, "Doctor, I have this pain in my back." The doctor does tests. He has you meet with other people. And the day comes and Dr. Rader calls you and says, "Come on in. I need to talk to you. You have a cancer mass on your spine. If you don't have surgery, you're going to die. If you do have surgery, you could be paralyzed for the rest of your life." I think we'd all agree that that's a serious decision, much like deciding life in prison. And you say, "Doctor, thank you. I'm devastated by this. I'm going to get a second opinion." And you get all of Dr. Rader's tests and everything he did, and you take it to another doctor. The doctor says, "Let me get back to you. I'm going to review these." The doctor calls you back and says, "Sir or ma'am, I've looked through all these records, and there's at least 77 errors in those records. I've also found out that Dr. Rader State failed to talk to anybody that you talked to about food poisoning. There's some notes in here that say you could have food poisoning. We need to look at it. They should ask the patient what he had to eat, what he or she had to drink." But Dr. Rader ignored that. And the second doctor says, "Look, I just think you had a case of food poisoning. And let me show you all the errors in his records." How many people in here would have that surgery? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Prosecutors, court staff, how many people in here would have that surgery? Why? Sergeant Dagnall didn't even raise his hand. He's sitting right there. Why would you not have that surgery? Because you have a reasonable doubt.
The courtroom's buzzing. The Toto's point, if you can't trust the security system, can you really trust it to convict AJ? Reasonable doubt, it's the name of the game. All right, gather around for the latest courtroom twist in the AJ Armstrong saga. The prosecutor, John Jordan, he's got this ace up his sleeve, a tiny, almost missed detail from the 911 call. There's AJ on the call, mentioning a ringing in his ears.
Okay, can you hear anything else that's going on?
Now, Jordan's making a big deal out of this. He's like, folks, ever notice that high-pitched ringing after firing a gun? That's what ear protection's for. And then when the dispatcher asks AJ if he hears anything, all he gets is an like AJ's hesitating, maybe cooking up a story right there. But wait, it gets better. The state's painting AJ's story as something straight out of a Hollywood script. Like 5 whole hours after the shooting, AJ suddenly remembers seeing a masked man running through the house. The prosecution's not buying it. They're all, come on, really? A mysterious masked man? If you saw someone sprinting through your house, Wouldn't you be yelling that over the phone, especially with your sister still in the house? They're suggesting AJ is making up this one-armed man figure to cover his tracks. Classic movie plot, right? The jury, though, they're caught in a whirlwind of doubt. In the first trial, it's a split decision. 8 think he's guilty, 4 don't. Fast forward to 2022, and it's a role reversal. This time, more jurors are leaning towards innocence. People are starting to say, maybe it's time to let AJ off the hook.
Yeah, it's been 6 years, it's been 2 trials, it's been 40, 50 witnesses, it's been probably millions of dollars of expenses by the district attorney's office. It's time to let this young man go. We're absolutely ready.
You're prepared to do this again?
Yes, ma'am. I told you we'll never stop fighting for AJ.
And get this, some jurors, speaking of the record, are spilling the beans about what went down in the jury room. They're saying, yeah, we think he did it, but there's just enough doubt. They're puzzled over AJ's tale about the guy running down the stairs. If it was dark and he thought it might be his brother, Josh, wouldn't he recognize him? Mask or no mask? The plot thickens, the doubts linger, and the Armstrong case keeps everyone guessing. It's like a real-life whodunit. And the final chapter's still up in the air. Alright folks, let's rewind a bit before we launch into the climax of the AJ Armstrong saga. Back in early 2023, the stage was being set for a third courtroom showdown. The state, unwavering in its conviction, scheduled jury selection for February 24th, with the courtroom drama expected to kick off in late March. This time, there is a change of scenery. A new venue, ordered by the judge to escape the intense public eye in Harris County. They're aiming for a fair trial, unbiased and unswayed by the media circus that's been trailing AJ since that fateful night in 2016. Now fast forward to the trial itself. The tensions thick as Texas barbecue sauce. This isn't just any trial. It's the final act in a story that's gripped the nation for 8 long years. The state's been adamant. AJ is the one who pulled the trigger, ending the lives of his parents, Antonio and Dawn Armstrong. But here's the catch. They've still got to prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. As the trial unfolds, the courtroom's like a scene straight out of a thriller movie. There's AJ, now 23, a young father, his future hanging by a thread. And let's not forget Kate, now his wife and the mother of his child, still by his side, a testament to love through the toughest of times. The defense throws a curveball, shining the spotlight on Josh, AJ's older half-brother. The revelation? Josh's medical records are a bombshell, hinting he might have witnessed the murders, but the prosecution's not having any of it. They argue that the trauma of losing his parents triggered Josh's mental health issues, not the other way around. And just when you think you've seen it all, there's a new piece of evidence. Antonio Sr.'s blood on AJ's shirt, a detail missed in the initial investigation. The jurors are on the edge of their seats, weighing every piece of evidence, every testimony. Finally, the moment of truth arrives. The verdict? Guilty. The courtroom erupts into a cacophony of emotion, tears, gasps, the whole 9 yards. AJ, stoic as ever.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Antonio Armstrong Jr., guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment.
Accepts his fate while Kate's world crumbles around her. But this story is not over yet. AJ is gearing up for an appeal, fighting tooth and nail for his freedom. As for Kate, she is left to navigate a future filled with uncertainty and legal battles, holding the pieces of their shattered life together. After the whirlwind of the third trial, AJ Armstrong faced the grim reality of his sentencing. He was convicted of capital murder and faced a daunting sentence, life in prison, without the possibility of parole for at least 40 years. This verdict came despite the case hinging largely on circumstantial evidence, a fact that adds layers of complexity and doubt to the whole saga. Now, let's put on our speculation hats. Remember, in a case built on circumstantial evidence, every detail, no matter how small, is a piece of the puzzle. The absence of direct evidence, like DNA or fingerprint, linking AJ directly to the crime scene leaves room for questions and theories. One could argue, considering the meticulous planning implied by the crime, the gun and the cryptic note left behind, the careful avoidance of leaving physical evidence, it's curious that a teenager like AJ at the time of the murders would have the foresight and precision to execute such a crime flawlessly. Was he really capable of such a calculated act? Then there's the matter of the security system. While it indicated no break-ins, testimonies suggested it was unreliable. Could someone have entered and exited the house undetected? And let's not forget the mysterious masked figure AJ claimed to have seen. Was this a panic-induced fabrication, or did it hold a grain of truth? Moreover, the sudden introduction of the theory implicating Josh, AJ's half-brother, due to his mental health issues, adds another twist. Could his condition have played a role, or was this just a red herring introduced by the defense? In cases like this, where the evidence is more about connecting dots than presenting clear facts, the truth can often remain elusive. Did the jury get it right? Or has a potentially innocent young black man been wrongfully convicted? These questions may linger in the minds of many who have followed this case closely. In the end, the AJ Armstrong case, with its layers of mystery and intrigue, remains a subject of debate and speculation. Perhaps the full truth of what happened that fateful night in the Armstrong household may never be entirely known. And that, dear viewers, is where we wrap up the intricate and heart-wrenching saga of AJ Armstrong. Thank you, each and every one of you, for taking the time out to journey through this complex and thought-provoking story with me here on Watson's World. As per usual, guys, if you are visiting this channel for the first time, click on the subscription button so that you will be alerted every time I upload a new video. You can also follow me on Instagram, X, and Facebook at The Noble Cop. Until next time, my beautiful people, walk good.